Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Alice Prigent of Knowthyselfandheal.com. So check it out, we're outside. It's been a while. I've done videos outside and we've been through a long winter and finally it's getting warm. And I tried doing a video earlier and it didn't quite work out. So I had to start over and I thought, oh, maybe I'll just go outside. So here we are. It's interesting because I actually wanted to do this video before the new moon. This video is going to be on the new moon in Taurus. That's happening and is happening right now as I'm making the video. It's May 19th of 2023. And I wanted to do it beforehand, before the new moon. However, I am glad that I didn't, because I actually had an insight come to me today as I was preparing to do the video, as I was writing down the planets and thinking about them, and I realized, oh my gosh, there's some very interesting things about this new moon that I may not have actually realized if I had done the video ahead of time. I think I needed to experience everything to get to this point of remembering this really important piece that I haven't heard anyone else talk about, but it's an important piece. And so let's talk about it. Okay, so first of all, any new moon is going to be when the sun and moon are in the same part of the sky, aspect of the sky, right? They're in a conjunction. This time it's at 28 degrees and some minutes of Taurus. So we're at almost the anaretic degree, which is 29 degrees of Taurus. And that's a special degree. If you don't already know, the anaretic degree is really this quickening of what we've experienced with that planet throughout its traverse through the sign, right? So it's coming to the end of the sign. And so there's this natural inclination to really, resolve the things of that archetype that need to be really understood or grasped within our own consciousness. And so when you bring the new moon there, the moon and sun are conjunct. This is really about, and this would be with any new moon, is, you have the moon and sun conjunct. So that means that we're looking at seeding something in regards to that sign. So in this case, Taurus, right? Our Taurus consciousness, and how we're feeling internally, the moon, right? And how we'd like to self-actualize that particular aspect of our own consciousness. And in this case, Taurus, right? So how it is we're seeding and how we're sensing through feeling, how we desire, that's my cat in the background playing, how we desire to actually really seed our own Taurian consciousness in new ways based on how we're feeling and what we're sensing from the internal world, right? Now, this is really great that it's at the almost anaretic degree, because we're actually quickening and culminating our 18-month cycle of this journey with the nodes being in Taurus and Scorpio. The north node is at 3 degrees of Taurus, south node's at 3 degrees of Scorpio. So the nodes actually move backwards through the signs, right? And so we've actually been, we're coming up to this completion around looking at our own personal emotional relationship to our own Taurus and Scorpio consciousness, and potentially, of course, the Taurus Scorpio consciousness of all others, meaning the collective, but also the people that we're intimately connected with, which would be Scorpio, and the people that we share our resources with, which is Taurus Scorpio, right? And so this is great to really be culminating and having a new moon at the almost 29th degree of Taurus is really helpful in regards to seeding that culmination. and our, culmination of the journey of the nodes through Taurus and Scorpio, because in July, the nodes will move into Aries and Libra. So as we are finding ourselves at this new moon, Jupiter has just ingressed Taurus. This happened on May 15th. And so, interestingly, by the way, so Mercury went direct, and then the day after, Jupiter entered Taurus. This is interesting because Jupiter and Mercury have a very special relationship. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius, Gemini's opposite sign, and Pisces, Virgo's opposite sign. So this is really how we all have this mercurial function. It's our left brain thinking, right? Our linear thinking. The part of us that thinks of things step by step, right? And Jupiter is connected to our right brain thinking. And this is not necessarily step by step. This is actually gathering information and in a way that is actually contributing to our higher mind. That's not step by step. It's actually, our higher mind is actually connected to a more multi-dimensional way of looking at time, right? And so left brain thinking is more like, sequential things. Things happen in sequence, right? Step by step. But our right brain is like, well, really, ultimately, there's this part of our brain that can access information from all different angles, right? And so when we have a Mercury retrograde, we actually have the opportunity, we actually are cued to actually move into that right brain thinking and actually allow the higher mind to come in and allow the intuition to come in. And this is where we can kind of read between the lines of things. We can actually access information that we may have missed, glossed over, disregarded, or just didn't see, and then becomes important, right? And so that we have more of a holistic point of view on the full, bigger picture of things, whatever the circumstances are we're talking about. And remember that this Mercury retrograde was in Taurus, so this has to do with our resources, how we share our resources with those that we're intimate with, because this is the Taurus-Scorpio axis of consciousness. And, who are we intimate with? This could be intimacy with our lovers. This could be intimacy with our family. This could be intimacy with our friends. Anywhere where we've actually shared our personal heart. Venus, Taurus, right? Venus is the ruler of Taurus and is actually the planet that is connected to the heart chakra, right? So where we've shared our heart with people, where it is we've actually shared our own personal resource of could be our body, could be our own just consciousness, where we've invested our consciousness. Taurus is all about investment, how we invest our consciousness. And that's always sharing our greatest resource, which is our own consciousness, right? So Mercury's retrograde being in Taurus, remember that it actually came up to Uranus, and then right before it was conjunct Uranus, in a completing conjunction to Uranus, and ready to begin a new cycle of integration, right? It actually went retrograde. And then it came all the way up, super close to the nodes, North Node in Taurus, and then it actually, and by the way, as it came up to that North Node, right? That means it's opposing the South Node in Scorpio. So did that, and then it went direct. And guess what? Then Jupiter went into Taurus. So this is interesting because, okay, Jupiter's been in Aries for a year. Remember that Jupiter spends a year or about a year in a sign. What was happening for you 12 years ago when Jupiter entered Taurus? You can kind of see what kind of themes might be coming up for you now, right? And so Jupiter's been in Aries. This has been all about what are my beliefs in regards to my own identity? Where is it that I may have actually wounded my own identity by taking on other people's beliefs? Because remember, Chiron's in Aries. Where is it that I can heal my identity by actually selecting beliefs that support who I really am and my identity? And so now Jupiter goes into Taurus and is like, all right, let's slow down, Taurus, because Taurus likes to slow down and kind of relax a little so that it can assess what's happened in Aries, which is like boom, 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 action, 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 Mars, 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 Mars. And then it goes, okay, we need to take a step back and receive back what we've already, the energy that we've already put out there, right? We need to actually balance that out by kind of taking a moment, right? So Jupiter's in Taurus is going to be about taking a moment, assessing, and really sensing, because Taurus is about our senses. We sense with our body consciousness. We have all these senses, so we can assess information, because at the end of the day, everything is just information. Consciousness is just information. Body is just basically information. DNA is just basically information, right? So everything's information. So here with Taurus, we need to actually like sit back, take a moment, take a year, whenever it is, right? And just allow ourselves to receive back. And with this, we can be getting some intuitive insights because this is Jupiter, right? And Mercury is now direct. So we could be getting some insights intuitively or from the higher mind. And remember, that's going to come in as we actually do allow ourselves to relax. And hopefully we've been relaxing during the Mercury retrograde. Remember that Mercury went retrograde the day after the new moon solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th. So Mercury went retrograde about April 21st. And just recently went direct. I believe that was on May 14th. So Jupiter went into Taurus May 15th. So now we have Jupiter North Node and Mercury direct and Uranus in Taurus. This is a lot in Taurus. And Mercury will continue to approach Uranus, and it will actually conjunct Uranus. Let me give you that date. It's gonna conjunct Uranus. I know I've said it before. Interesting. So it's gonna conjunct Uranus on June 5th of 2023. And that's going to be at 20 degrees of Taurus. So you can look to see where that is in your chart. What house is it in? Because that's the aspect of life that these insights and integration can be happening, right? Okay, so back to the new moon. And this is going to be all important for the really assessing what's going on with the new moon, right? Okay, so Jupiter is at 0 degrees, 40 minutes of Taurus. So this means that it's in a first quarter square to Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is at 0 degrees and 17 minutes of Aquarius. And this is important because, you know, Jupiter square Pluto, this is super special, I think, because this is actually, again, looking at, well, what do we really believe? And remember that Pluto has to do with how information gets exposed, particularly information, because it's Aquarius, right? Which is an air sign. So this has to do with information. Something gets exposed. It could have to do with friendships. It could have to do with groups that we find ourselves in, which can include family. It can have to do with just being a part of this bigger collective, the group of humanity, and the earth, right? It could be intimate bonds, because remember the South Node is in Scorpio. So anywhere where we, again, as I said, share our resources, right? And where others share resources with us as well. And so Jupiter square Pluto, this can really be looking at, and this can be for the whole year that Jupiter's in Taurus, is what do we really believe about how we share our resources with others? And what do we believe about how others share their resources with us? What are our beliefs surrounding that? And we can utilize the senses, which is a Venus, a Venusian theme, as well as a Taurus theme. We use the senses to assess what feels good for us personally. And we know when something doesn't feel right. We know when something feels off. And we can assess, what is it that's making me feel off? Remember, this is because Venus opposes Scorpio, or Venus in Taurus, Venus and Taurus, because Venus rules Taurus, opposes Pluto ruling Scorpio, right? So we know when something is not quite right. What is it? Is it a belief we're holding? Is it, maybe a belief that's not true? Or is it a belief that's not supporting us personally? Is a belief that we have that we've been holding on to actually showing us that we may have been in friendships and relationships that are not actually really resonant with us, because maybe there was something we were believing that we thought we needed to be there when it wasn't really resonant. Or maybe just something was exposed where we realized it may not be resonant now or relevant now, right? So these are some things that you can be thinking about, or that could have been coming up for you, that can be coming up for you to assist you in seeding something new, seeding a new belief. Because check this out, Mars is at 29 degrees 26 of Cancer, which means it's about to go into Leo. So guess what? Mars is waxing into an opposition, very tight opposition, with Pluto in Aquarius. So these are going to be at 0 degrees, which is super potent, because the first degree, 0, is really potent, just like the anaretic degree. The last degree is potent. So Mars opposing Pluto, waxing first quarter square to Jupiter. What are we acting on in regards to our own self-actualization process creatively, right? Meaning we are creators. And remember that Leo is like the divine child. It's the part of us that knows we are a child of the universe, and we have some light to bring to the world, or to wherever it is we find ourselves, right? And so we are this, divine child that is a creator. And so we're creatively self-actualizing. You can see wherever your sun sign is, this is how you're, designed to creatively self-actualize your own light, as well as cultivate that throughout your lifetime. So when we've got Mars and Leo, this is about taking action in regards to that creative self-actualization process, but it's opposing Pluto in Aquarius. And this is where we have to recognize, well, the way in which we're self-actualizing, is it not only good for me, but is it good for all of the individuals that would be experiencing that? Aquarius. So the groups we find ourselves in, the family we find ourselves in, some would say a tribe, or friendships, or a group of friends, or maybe lovers, or could even be our children, our family, like how we're self-actualizing creatively. Are we actually taking into consideration, is this something that is going to be really recognizing the needs of everyone in the group as well, not just our own needs. Because this is the thing about Leo is the first trine from Aries, right, to Leo, right? That's a trine. It's a fire trine, right? And this is where we actually, in the psychological development, recognize that, wow, we are separate than our family. We are separate than our parents. We have our own light to shine. We have our own creative self-actualization to be doing in this life. And, you know, this is the part of us you can think back in the or the psychological development. This is a child like, Mom, Dad, look what I can do. Look at me. Look what I did. Look what I can do. You know, it's like, Mom, look what I can do. You know, this is that cultivation of, oh my gosh, I have my own light. I can do this on my own. And I have something to share that's unique, that's different, you know, that's brilliant in its own way. And yet, as we psychologically develop, we recognize that, yes, child, you do have something absolutely very special to share and cultivate in this world. However, everyone else does too, right? And so we want to make sure that we're actually recognizing other people's light as well. We're actually encouraging other people's light, that through our own self-actualization process and cultivation of light, that we're actually honoring other people's light as well, by also honoring the needs within the group or the individuals that we would be serving. And this is Virgo, right? What is it that we're serving? Because it's not just about serving our own evolutionary momentum and our own evolutionary purpose, but how that actually contributes to the collective light. And so this is where we have this relationship with the divine that is, you know, actually self-actualizing itself through the entire collective. And so we must make room for everyone's light. We also must make room for recognizing everyone's needs. And so, and you know, this is actually also then cultivated through Libra as we psychologically develop and have experiences with this Aries and Libra axis of consciousness, which, you know, we will go into as the nodes move into Aries and Libra in July, right? Okay, so we've got Mars square Jupiter, and Jupiter is square Pluto. Mars is opposing Pluto. And by the way, Jupiter is conjunct the North Node, opposing the South Node in Scorpio. Mars, then that means that, so there's like this grand cross going on, right? Fixed grand cross. Mars and Leo. I mean, by the way, in the new moon chart, Mars isn't exactly in Leo yet, but it's still within an opposition to Pluto. So after the new moon event, like right after 20th, 21st, Mars is going to be in Leo and opposing. And remember, whenever you have an opposition, this can definitely be experiences in the outside world. Okay, so this is where we'll have people, circumstances, situations in the outside world that are actually mirroring, reflecting whatever it is that is helpful to us in our own cultivation of light. And right now, the light being shining on Taurus, our Taurus consciousness. How are we taking care of how we're actually our own needs and our own personal cultivation of light, as well as our own personal evolutionary momentum, right? But also, how we share our resources with others and how others share resources with us, right? And again, what are our beliefs about that? Is it actually balanced? Because this opposition between Mars and Pluto and the nodes and Jupiter, this can actually bring in, well, what do you believe in about this? Are you getting the results that you desire? Is it balanced for both people or both situations, like, or circumstances, So that's a very important thing. Now, this is super important. Check this out. Guess what? Pluto is at 0 degrees, and that is where we experienced the Jupiter-Saturn, the Great Conjunction, December 21st of 2020. Where did that happen in your chart? This was super important because whatever house that happened in, where Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted, that is actually starting a 20-year cycle, and it actually begins like a very important cycle in air signs. It's like a 200-year cycle in air signs. So this is important because this is actually where those Saturn Jupiter conjunctions have been in earth signs for a couple hundred years. Now it's going to be in air. So this is all about the exchange of ideas, sharing information, and how we all have this contribution of information to share with society, Saturn, and our culture and cultures, Jupiter, right? And how that shapes what we believe about what it is to be in society as well. So remember that Jupiter and Saturn are both teachers. Jupiter teaches through expansion. Saturn teaches through restriction. So I always think of this as the in-breath, out-breath, contraction and expansion of the lungs, right? So they actually do, we need both functions in consciousness. We need to contract at times. We need to expand at times. But we need to know when it's time to contract and when it's time to expand, right? Because, we want to, there's a thing that's coming to my mind about that. It's like, it's like you've heard of when babies are being born, right? And sometimes they can breathe too quickly, and they actually breathe this amniotic fluid, right? And so it's like kind of like that, where there's something within us because it's a 0 degrees, right? So something new is being born within us, even in this new moon, right? Because a new moon is like that. We're seeding something, right? And so we want to actually, and we can utilize this fixed grand cross to actually learn how to expand and contract at just the right time, right? And so we can recognize where it is we need to expand out, and then where it is we actually restrict, so that we're actually creating in a way that is in alignment with the time that we find ourselves in, right? And so now Mars opposing Pluto and squaring Jupiter and the nodes. Interestingly, Mars, as I said, is in that first quarter square to Jupiter. And then on June 1st, Mars will square Saturn. So that's interesting. And remember that Mars, when it opposes Pluto, is opposing where the Great Conjunction happened. So how are you acting on behalf of your own needs and your desire to self-actualize creatively, and what is the reflection that's coming back? And then this is going to assist you, us, to actually birth this new thing that we're personally bringing based on where this great conjunction happened in our own chart, whatever house it's in. That shows the aspect of life that we're actually bringing new ideas to the table in regards to our own Aquarian consciousness and how we connect the dots, how we self-actualize our own unique brilliance. What aspect of life? That's the house, okay? So check it out. Mars will be opposing that point. And so this is going to be, you know, what's happening in the reflections in your world right now, okay? That is assisting you to seed what it is that you need to seed in this new moon in Taurus, as well as we continue through the lunation cycles, so that you can bring your personal brilliance to the culture you find yourself in, to the society you find yourself in, because it's needed, right? And so whatever is happening is really important in regards to this great conjunction that happened. And remember that Pluto's been sitting there, and it's retrograding back into Capricorn. It's gonna go back over that point as well. So we have more time to do this. But remember, what's also interesting is that Mars always acts on behalf of Pluto. This is our instinctual nature. And we actually, you know, we cultivate an instinctual nature based on what we believed before, which has become automatic pilot. Well, Jupiter's just been through Aries, so we've been actually sifting through our beliefs. Is it resonant with our identity now? And now Jupiter's in Taurus. Okay, is this really resonant, like in regards to how I want to share my brilliance? And then how others share their brilliance with me. Does it resonate? And then is it a mutually regenerative experience? Do I feel like it's mutual, this reflection that's coming back with those that I share my resources with? Does it feel like that's actually being received in a way that's valuing me, and vice versa, right? And so this wouldn't be surprising if we find ourselves, as the nodes move into Aries and Libra here soon, we might be finding that there are relationships that are going to be falling away because it's not resonant with who we are now and who we are. And the work we've been doing to really be cultivating, supporting ourselves, because as Jupiter's been going through Aries for a year, remember it passed over Chiron. So it's like, okay, you know, are my beliefs really supporting me in my identity? And then have I taken on beliefs of other people rather than this actually does support me? It does support my experience. And then how does that heal my identity or wound my identity? You know, you can be seeing how this has been showing up for you. So, you know, we're going through this experience where we can recognize that, well, you know, what do I need from relationships? Am I being valued in relationships? And what I'm sharing, am I being valued? Am I valuing what is showing up in my relationships? Is it really resonant with what I believe? And what I believe about intimacy, what I believe about sharing who I am, and others sharing who they are. You know, is it authentic? Is there authenticity? Is there integrity? And, you know, as Mars comes to square Saturn and Pisces, wait a minute, hold on. No, I'm sorry, it's not a square. Mars is going to, let me look here. Mars and Leo. Mars actually is not going to square. It's going to oppose Saturn. It's going to oppose Saturn. Okay. I don't know what it is with this Mars. It's so funny. I've been like thinking it's square and then like, wait, no. And then, it does square Jupiter, but then it opposes Saturn as it moves into Virgo. Now, hey, when's that going to happen? Oh, you know what? It's not. Okay, I know what I'm thinking. Okay, it is going to oppose. Okay, so first, it's not square. I keep mixing this up, so please, I'm correcting myself. So take note, okay? So Mars actually is in a quincunx to Saturn. So Mars squares Jupiter, and then it's in a quincunx to Saturn at 6 degrees when it reaches 6 degrees. That's on June 1st, okay? And so the quincunx is it's an adjustment that must be made, right? So this is about self-improvement. How can I improve what I'm doing, right? So that it's fitting the needs of what I'm actually going for, right? Remember, Saturn restricts, and so it wants to actually restrict any distractions so that you can focus and funnel your consciousness towards that which you desire, right? And so rather than, all the potential possibilities, which is a Piscean theme, right? So Mars, as I said, at this new moon, it's square Jupiter, and that's a first quarter square, so it's a new square. It can feel like pressure internally. Remember, with internal pressure with Mars, we can actually just utilize that pressure to pivot in new ways. If we find ourselves irritated, angry, recognizing that's telling us something that is unconscious, that is asking us to pivot in a new way. And so, we can feel angry and irritated and frustrated when we actually feel like we've been repressing something, okay? Energy, Mars, repressed is irritation, anger, right? And so we could have let things fester. We could have, and so we can also use that energy because it is momentum, it is energy at the end of the day. Use it to just pivot into a new direction, right? Now, then as I said, as Mars continues to move in Leo, it's going to quincunx Saturn. And so this is that improvement, the adjustment. Maybe, we could have found ourselves getting angry or irritated, but then we recognize, okay, I experienced anger, I experienced irritation. Now, what do I want to do with that energy in a productive way? How can I pivot in a new direction or pivot in a way that actually takes out anything that is actually leaking my energy, that is actually where I've been sharing my resources, meaning my energy. Maybe I need to actually not leak my energy in that thing and actually funnel it more directly, right? So then Mars will oppose from Virgo. It's going to oppose Saturn. And let me give you that date because we went there. So Mars opposes Saturn at 6 degrees on July 21st. Pluto will be at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So then we'll be working on this internal dimension, yen sign, Capricorn. Okay, and so this really does, because Capricorn's in a nice Earth trine with Virgo, so this is going to be about cleaning things up internally, how we're actually cultivating our own light and garden of consciousness, right? And so let me see what else is going on. that I'm just curious if there's anything interesting else that's going on that day. Jupiter will be at 12 degrees of Taurus. Yeah, interesting. It looks like the moon will also be in Virgo. So this is going to be, like cleaning things up. I'll do a video on it, I'm sure. But, remember that Virgo is about really cleaning up the garden, taking out the weeds. Like, hey, this thing that's growing in my garden, like, it's just taking nutrients from the things that I want to be growing. Maybe there's a purpose for it, but not in my particular garden, right? And so we have to pull the weeds, right? So that all the nutrients in the soil is actually going towards that which we desire to grow. It's going to be nourishing for us personally, and the service that we're personally giving and sharing with the collective. So just be aware of that. So there, I guess through this kind of weird mind thing I've had with this Mars square Saturn, but it's actually a quincunx, it kind of brought me into how it's doing this cycle, right? And so this is really important. I really feel this is super important. So I can be thankful that I was thinking of it that way, because then, it brought me into, okay, well then let's see what happens there with that opposition. And that's going to be important. So, okay, so back to this new moon. Now, at Jupiter's ingress, by the way, when Jupiter went into Taurus, Venus was in Cancer. Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So we want to see, well, where's Venus when Jupiter enters Venus's sign? And it was in Cancer. And so this is really a lot about this Cancer Capricorn axis of consciousness, where Pluto is about to go back to, right? Really cultivating empathy, not only for ourselves, using the senses, Venus, so that we're empathic in regards to our own needs and the needs of others, right? And that way we're really making sure that however we're structuring our reality from the internal world is actually how we desire it to be structured, what's actually going to be in service to the reality that we desire to actually build for ourselves, as eventually and soon Pluto will go back into Aquarius to create this new reality, right? And, to self-actualize in new ways. And remember, again, this also means, as it's connected to this great conjunction from December 21st of 2020, right? So that's an important piece, I feel, in regards to, this empathy is really important. We want to be cultivating empathy. This is definitely something to be considering as Pluto goes into Aquarius, because we know that Aquarius has to do with technology, and technology is an important tool. However, it is important that we balance our lives, that we actually spend time in nature. This really helps with our empathic awareness, really noticing our environment as alive. It's living. Everything is alive. And I believe that technology itself, there is nothing in this world that could be created without consciousness. We are literally submersed in consciousness. Even though we would think that there's, this metal is not alive, it has consciousness because it's made from consciousness. It may not be a consciousness that we can understand, but it does have some level of consciousness. So I'm not saying that, the machines we have don't have consciousness, but we do want it to be balanced so that we have this empathic awareness, this I always think of enlightenment as Aquarius, where we can connect how everything fits together. and everything has a place and a function. And so if we are too focused on one, we miss out on balance and homeostasis in our own consciousness, because we need different angles of perceptions in order to be enlightened, right? We need to be enlightened. We just need full awareness. When we have full awareness of the needs of the environment, we also have full awareness of our own needs. As we have full awareness of our own needs, we have full awareness of the needs of the environment. We will know to seek them out, right? So this is where we do need all angles of perception, which is why, I really believe that all creative beings are part of this ultimate universal consciousness, so that we have all angles of perception and creation, right? So in order to be really in this ecstatic consciousness that we can and all have access to, we must be balanced. We must, not to say we will be balanced at all times. I'm not saying that, but just that, we can really be recognizing wherever it is that we could be utilizing or cultivating more empathy. And I really believe that being out in nature is one of those things, or definitely getting different experiences. Sometimes traveling can build empathy, because you actually have more awareness of how other people are living, how different cultures, different societies are living, how there are people that are living with more than you have or less than you have, or an all in between, right? Like, we have more perspective when we are able to actually change things up, and we get to learn from that. We get to have more perspective, more information, and more a more heightened awareness, right? So I do believe that Venus being in Cancer when Jupiter entered this Taurus is really about cultivating the empathy, ultimately first with our own needs. Cancer, how do we nurture ourselves and our own needs, in a self-reliant way? Because if we're depending on other people to take care of us, we're actually debilitated in being able to even know our own needs, because someone else is going to do it. So this is important, because again, the nodes are going to move in Aries and Libra, and this is all about codependency and making sure that we're not codependent, and noticing where we are codependent. Because if we are codependent, we don't have self-reliance, and that means that we're not truly able to be empowered, because our power depends upon someone else or something else. So really cultivating this empathy is, I think, likely to be helpful in this next year as we gear up for Pluto moving into Aquarius for 20 years, and how, yes, our world is changing and is going to be more technologically inclined. How do we want to do that? With empathy, with maintaining our empathy, and maintaining our balance in moving through new territory of consciousness. So how do we want to be seeding this, our values at this new moon in Taurus, and making sure that we're really looking at our own value, our personal value, making sure that that is being reflected in the outside world. And if it's not, where can we plant new seeds of intention for working towards more regenerative sharing of our own resources and others, and sharing their resources with us? Maybe we need more regenerative or regenerating bonds, intimate bonds, or friendships, or relationships, or relating styles, or how we're relating with ourselves. All of these things can be coming up, so that we see that. So I hope this is helpful. I want to actually leave it there, because this is almost 50 minutes and I really didn't want it to be a super long video, but I hope all of these contemplations are helpful for you. It's super fun to talk about it. I love it. And so I hope that it's something that, you know, somebody else can get something out of too. If you like it, please do um, like it on your YouTube. Press the like button, because that does increase the algorithm. It does share this information with other people, and it really helps me and my channel grow, and I would like to grow it. And so that's why I do these videos, and because I grow from it as well. And I think that if I desire to do it, then other people might could use this information too, right? So if you like it. And I would love to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think? What's going on for you? Do you have questions? I'm always happy to interact. It's always super fun to interact. It makes the conversation so much more rich. And because we all have something to bring to the table, right? So please do feel free to comment, and then also share the video if you feel inclined and you think that you know some people that might find something valuable here. So thanks so much for joining me. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, then thank you so much, because I know it's a bit long and it is an investment, but hopefully a valuable investment for you. And so I will see you on the next video.